This is Nathan Fantasy Football League Updates. We are so back. Nathan, Fantasy Football League Updates. The 2025 season is here. It begins tomorrow in Philadelphia, and we are so excited to have the season back. Thanks so much for tuning in. Another season of fantasy football is right around the corner, and why waste any time? We got to get you my week one predictions. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe, comment down below. But also, what this is every week I will give you my predictions for who I think will win. Those will come out on Wednesdays. And then the next week, Wednesday, you'll get a recap of what went down, as well as my next predictions. So week one, we only get to the predictions. If you haven't yet seen though, the last couple of videos, we did my power rankings post-draft for this year's power rankings. So go back and see that to see where maybe your favorite team, or to get to know the teams that you want to call your favorite team, landed on that list. So without any further ado though, let's jump in to my week one predictions. And we're going to start out just like the NFL season did with the reigning champions. The Tucson Gila Monsters take on Linden the Crow to open up week one. Pretty exciting matchup there. Those two teams have had some good battles. Pretty split even across the board in the all-time series. But something of note, Linden the Crow is 4-0 in the all-time fantasy season in opening game wins. They have never lost. They get off to great starts and then lose most of the time except 2022 when they won it all. So let's find out what week one has in store. We will start with your reigning champions, the Tucson Gila Monsters. They roll out a good lineup, I feel like, for this week. Guys that I think are going to get off to a great start. Jalen Hurts, obviously, will be the first guy to play, and I think against a Dallas defense that now is without Micah Parsons, without a lot of pieces. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley probably, A.J. Brown. Eagles will have a field day at home honoring the Super Bowl. Give me a 20-plus point game for Jalen Hurts for sure. At least a tush push into the end zone for sure. I mean, you look down the board, I think Trevor Lawrence has a favorable matchup against Carolina. Josh Jacobs and Kenneth Walker, both of my running backs, not so much favorable. You get a tough Detroit defense and a tough 49ers defense. I think both of those will kind of hinder them. That is why Josh Jacobs is my turning point player this week. I think a win or a loss hinges on Josh Jacobs' performance as my RB1 this year. It's a tough Detroit defense. I think he plays fine. It's just a matter of how does Green Bay attack this, because this is going to be a back and forth battle Sunday afternoon where both teams are going to try to go ahead. Do the Packers go more with a pass-heavy attack, and does Josh Jacobs get involved with that? Or will they go more run-heavy, which benefits Josh Jacobs? Again, you never know with the Packers, so Josh Jacobs is my week one turning point player. Now, looking down the board, past my running back position, Jamar Chase has one of the most favorable matchups I've ever seen. The Cleveland Browns. Yeah, their defense is going to struggle this season just as much as probably the Bengals defense will, but Jamar Chase is going to get fed the football week one. He has a monster week one. Not enough to be our top scorer of the week, but he'll still play really well and be kind of just a statement for him falling to number 3. Mike Evans, I think, just plays average this week against Atlanta, which is what I need from him. Evan Ingram, I think, has a kind of decent game, might find the end zone in his first game in a Broncos uniform. I think him and Bo Nix are going to be really solid together. And then my flex player, a good option for Turning Point Player of the Week, but I think Josh Jacobs hinges on that a little bit more. It's the rookie Teteroa McMillan. We're throwing him right out there. I think he's got a good matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. A secondary that's a little questionable. Maybe we'll see Travis Hunter matched up on Teteroa McMillan. But I do like Tet to kind of show up and show out for a good performance in his first game of the season. Nothing spectacular, not a 20-plus point performance, but I still think a solid performance for a rookie to warrant a flex start. Then you look at the special teams. I think the Texans defense plays about average against the Rams. Harrison Butker, he finds a couple field goals against the Chargers in Brazil. And then A.J. Cole punts a good amount against New England. So now let's head over to Lyndon the Crow. And for them, a lot of question marks, but I do think they have some solid matchups. Kyler Murray against the Saints. I feel like Kyler Murray's going to have a monster game. Justin Fields in his first game as a New York Jet and against his former team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like the Steelers' defense to kind of shut him down a little bit, but rushing yards help him stay at about a serviceable job at quarterback 2. And then we get into some interesting position players. Ashton Jeanty will make his first career NFL appearance. He'll be the lead rusher for the Raiders. They take on the New England Patriots. I think you get that rookie slow start from Jeanty. I think he plays serviceable. He might find the end zone once, but it's nothing dazzling to be your first overall pick. I think we'll talk about it a little bit more later in this prediction, but it'll be a slower start for a lot of these rookies. Then we move over to Chuba Hubbard. I think Hubbard has a decent game back. Serviceable, good 15-point performance. Devontae Adams, his first time suiting up as a Ram, will go pretty well. They're going to throw the ball a lot against the Texans defense, and I think you've got to try and throw the ball against. And really try to attack them aerially. So I think between Puka and Devontae, both of them will have a pretty solid performance. Marvin Harrison Jr. also benefits from the Kyler Murray start in New Orleans. He plays pretty solid. Hawkinson gets back on track as a pretty solid tight end. And your turning point player this week, the rookie running back, Travion Henderson. We do not know what to expect. Will it be Ramondre Stevenson? Will it be Travion Henderson taking a bulk of the carries? We just don't know. So I think he's a big turning point player. I think he'll find the end zone. He'll get more carries than Stevenson and do good work. But again, I think the rookies have a little bit slower of a start, and then later in the season, they'll start to turn things up. So looking at the Patriots defense, they'll play well against the Raiders. Chris Boswell will get some good points, and Johnny Hekker for the Tennessee Titans will punt a good amount. So it's now time for my first prediction of the year. The reigning champs take on the 4-0 Week 1 Lyndon the Crow. And in a 10-plus point spread, give me the reigning champs, the Tucson Gila Monsters. I think just some slow starts from the rookies. Not necessarily slow, but I do think that they aren't going to get off to as monster of a start as you want them to. Later in the season, I think they'll be a little bit more competitive with those 20-plus point games. But first game for some rookies, they're going to take it easy on them and not necessarily burn their tank Week 1. So there's my first prediction. I think Jamar Chase, Jalen Hurts lead me to a Week 1 victory to continue the back-to-back playoff push in Week 1. And for the first time, Lyndon the Crow falls in Week 1. Off to our next prediction. It's the Bangkok Ballin' Boas taking on the Guantanamo Bay Flying Squirrels. A good matchup to get us started. A Ballin' Boas team that was ranked 2 in our preseason polls, and then a Flying Squirrels team that I think can still be very competitive at our 7 seed. So let's jump right into this one. We'll start with the Ballin' Boas, who Lamar Jackson, he'll get off to a great start in a competitive game against Buffalo. A lot of rushing yards for him probably. I'm looking about a fringe 20-plus point game for him. Dak Prescott, first game back from injury. He takes on a tough defense in the Philadelphia Eagles. But I think he struggles in his first game back. A slow start for Dak attack. Chase Brown comes in as your running back 1. I think he has a monster performance against Cleveland. I think he's going to kind of deal with the hype that he's been receiving, run with it well, pun intended, and I think he has a 20-plus point game off the rip for you. On the other side, though, your running back 2, your turning point player, Isaiah Pacheco, I think he's off to a little bit slower start. against the LA Chargers, who their defensive line may have lost some pieces, but I think they're still going to be really tough up front, as all Harbaugh defenses are. I think could be a monster performance to be like, all right, I have my running back duo. And maybe he returns to form in week 1 to what we knew him as last year before the injury. But I think it's a slower start, and he'll start to build later on this year. Your wide receiver duo both show up. I think CeeDee Lamb struggles a little bit because Dak is struggling. So CeeDee Lamb will get double coverage against the Eagles defense that is extremely tough, and a road game that is going to be really, really rough for Dallas, I think. So CeeDee Lamb off to a little bit slower start than you want for your first round pick, but Brian Thomas Jr. picks up the slack, carries the load, has a really good week 1 against a terrible Panthers defense. Trey McBride, I think, starts the year off with a 20-point performance and finds the end zone better than he did last year, where he only found the end zone in week 18. I think Trey McBride has a 20-plus point performance for you. Now your flex player, Emeka Egbuka, expected to be wide receiver 2 or 3 with Chris Godwin out. He takes on Atlanta. I think it's a slower start for another rookie. I think he disappoints in his debut for the Ball and Boas. The defense, Broncos defense, always solid. They play the Titans. They're going to have a monster game. Tyler Loop will make his first kicks for the Ravens. They're playing the Bills, though. I think he gets a good performance. And then the staple, Michael Dixon, your punter, always punts fantastic. So let's move over to the Flying Squirrels. And for the Flying Squirrels, well, I think it starts with Joe Burrow having an enormous 20-plus point performance against the Cleveland Browns. CJ Stroud shows up after a really bad sophomore season. He turns it up in year number 3, gets back on track, has a phenomenal game 1 against the Rams. And then there's Saquon Barkley, who, as I mentioned, don't trust Dallas's defense to open up the season against the reigning Super Bowl champions on the road. Saquon Barkley absolutely dominates, picks up right where he left off with a 20 bomb. James Cook, I think, might find the end zone once against the Ravens, but he's not going to have a super flashy game, just a serviceable contest. A.J. Brown, with all the rushing attack from Hurts and Barkley, will still play really well. He's your turning point player this week. He's going to play solid, but nothing 20-plus point performance because Saquon and Jalen Hurts are going to take those scores. But I still think he might find the end zone, possibly, but turning point player because, again, if the ball is running well for Saquon and Jalen Hurts, then A.J. Brown might have a down game. You need that balanced attack where Saquon is producing and hopefully A.J. Brown is also producing. Jalen Hurts rushing touchdowns are not going to be your friend this season. Garrett Wilson gets off to a so-so start with Justin Fields. I have a feeling not a lot of throwing the football in week 1 with Justin Fields at the helm. I think they're going to try to work that in as the season progresses. So a disappointing week 1 from Garrett Wilson. Mark Andrews gets his revenge for last year's AFC playoff matchup against the Bills, where he dropped that football. That was crazy. He bounces back, gets in the end zone. Big game. Mark Andrews is back. And DK Metcalf makes a serviceable fantasy start in his Pittsburgh Steelers debut. Again, the Ravens defense is a little tough of a start against a high-powered offense in the Buffalo Bills. I think Tyler Bass, similar to how Loop's going to play, you have both the kickers in that matchup, which is hilarious, is going to have a good contest. And Tommy Townsend, you got to hope the Texans punt a lot. I don't think they're going to punt a ton, so maybe just an average punting day. So, prediction number 2 and an 8-point spread. Give me the Bangkok Ballin' Boas. I think they've just got a little bit more firepower between Jackson and Chase Brown and both receivers. Well, I just think, having Saquon and A.J. Brown might slow you down some weeks because if Saquon's going off, A.J. Brown is not most likely. But I think you get a good showing from your quarterbacks. You're very competitive in this matchup. The Ballin' Boas just edge out the Guantanamo Bay Flying Squirrels in week 1. Off to matchup number 3. The Empire Strikes Back take on the Michigan Avengers to open up week 1. A fun matchup. We've got our 3 seed and the runner-up from last season looking to get back on track. They have the best winning percentage of all league managers, and that can't surprise anybody. They are always good in the regular season. And the Empire strikes back, looking to get back in the playoffs after a slow start last season. They amped it up at the end of the last season, so we'll see if they can pick up and get off to a better start this year. We'll start with the Empire. They roll out Jaden Daniels, who I think, the sophomore slump is there based on CJ Stroud's numbers last year, but I think he starts against the New York Giants. He dominates the New York Giants, a 20-plus point performance to kick off his 2025. Cam Ward, your rookie, not the best start. I think he will start like most rookies, struggling off the gates, especially against one of the best defenses in the league and the Denver Broncos. Don't be surprised if they run the football a lot on the road in the Mile High City. And then your running back room, your turning point player. We will start there with Christian McCaffrey. Yes, he is back. He is healthy, and he is taking on the Seattle Seahawks, which I think is a very favorable matchup. Anytime he plays the Seahawks, he has a great performance. The one thing I should note, Achilles tendonitis in both legs sidelined him for most of the season. I don't trust it. So I think it's a rough performance for your turning point player. Again, there's a potential that he comes back fully healthy, looks phenomenal, and all of a sudden CMC's back to doing CMC things. That changes a lot for this Empire team. That's why he's your turning point player. But I think it's a serviceable performance. He'll probably find the end zone based on how many times the 49ers are going to throw him the football or run the football through him. But if he stays healthy, that is. But that is kind of a prediction that I think he has a slow start back from injury in week one. Breece Hall, on the other hand, I think finds the end zone once. I think he struggles to get going yardage-wise, but he'll find a pay dirt once at least. He plays serviceable as well. Puka Nacua has a monster first game back against the Texans. I think he's going to get fed the football, and as well as Davante Adams, but a solid first game from Puka Nacua. Xavier Worthy starts out on a good note, being wide receiver 1 or 2 of Hollywood Brown's that guy, I guess. But Xavier Worthy starts out on a good note in his sophomore campaign on the road in Brazil. Travis Kelce, I think, has a serviceable start. I mean, maybe finds the end zone. He's getting older, so it's not a flashy tight end 1 performance, but it's a serviceable one. Over 10 points, you'll take that every day. Jacoby Meyer is just an excellent consistency guy. He's going to be consistent, get plenty of targets, and find a way to get you 13 to 14 a week. And then the rest of your special teams will play serviceable. Vikings defense, fine against Chicago. Cameron Dicker, get some good kicks up, get some field goal points against the Chiefs. And Logan Cook will probably punt a couple times against Carolina and that matchup between the Jaguars and the Panthers. So over to the Michigan Avengers we go, where the Avengers will roll out Bo Nix. So you have both quarterbacks in the matchup between the Titans and the Broncos. I think Bo Nix obviously has the better performance of the two and really goes out there and gets back on track. I think we're fringe 20-point game there. Caleb Williams has a solid performance and first start under Ben Johnson. Not as much as you want to see against a tough Vikings defense, but enough to make you go, all right, he should probably still be my QB2 heading into week number 2. Both your running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bucky Irving, both of them are either 20 or just below 20. So I think both of them start the season out well. The Lions on the road in Green Bay, they'll run the rock, they'll throw the ball to Gibbs. Bucky Irving against Atlanta, I think he finds a couple creases and finds the end zone as well. Malik Neighbors gets off to a solid start against the Washington Commanders. And Zay Flowers, your turning point player, I think he struggles out of the gate on the road at Buffalo. We know the Ravens are going to lean on the run and Derrick Henry in week 1 to get back on track. Zay Flowers will find a couple catches, but I don't think anything dazzling. That's the risk with that wide receiver 2 position. Brock Bowers starts off the season excellent, a fringe 20-plus point game against the Patriots. That's the tight end 1 for a reason. He shows out why. And then Jerry Jeudy, I think, gets off to a great start against Cincinnati. Being the guy in Cleveland, he's going to get about 10 targets per game, it feels like, or he at least should. And I think he's going to bring in a lot of those. The Steelers feed on the Jets. The McLaughlin gets up some good kicks and some good points against Atlanta. And Bryce Behringer against Vegas. He's for New England. He will punt somewhat. Prediction time. In a 10-plus point spread, I will be taking the Michigan Avengers. I think the CMC return is going to be pretty disappointing, along with a couple other positions, especially the QB2 position with Cam Ward, and then maybe just not enough serviceability from Myers and Kelsey to really help you out there, and even Breece Hall. But the Michigan Avengers, I think a little bit too much firepower with that running back room. Bo Nix getting a good matchup week 1, and then Brock Bowers as well. So, Avengers taking down the Empire week 1. Matchup number 4. The Zestmeisters battle the Brooklyn Bunnies for a 1-0 start. This one, I think, is going to be a really fun matchup. I think this will be a surprising matchup. You've got my 1 seed and my number 9 seed going at it. So we'll see how this start to the season goes. For the Zestmeisters, we'll start with them looking for that first playoff appearance. Is this the season? Can they make a big push in 2025? It starts in week 1. I think it starts out right with Patrick Mahomes going off against the Chargers. He gets back on track. I mean, the first couple of weeks, I should say couple, it was like the first 10 weeks, it felt like Patrick Mahomes wasn't even close to a 20-point fantasy performance. I think he flirts with 20 early on. I'm talking an 18, 19-point game in Sao Paulo, or I believe it's Sao Paulo, Brazil, against the Chargers. Michael Penix gets off to a fine start as the first week 1 starter in his career. He'll make that for the Falcons against the Buccaneers. I think he plays fine. It'll be a decent start. That's like, all right, there's my QB2. Alvin Kamara, your turning point player, kind of fringes on how much he's going to get thrown the football because we know that he might be able to run it. He's had some really good week 1s, though. I think he has another good week 1, but I think he's going to get thrown the ball. That work out of the backfield is going to be excellent for him. He has an awesome week to be your turning point player. James Conner, first week back after playing a full healthy season last year, plays fine. He plays serviceable. And then your wide receiver room. Amon-Ra St. Brown finds the end zone in Green Bay. Big scores and big plays for Amon-Ra. And then Nico Collins is our top scorer of the week. I think he has a monster 20-plus, maybe even 30-plus point performance against the Rams. He is the only option for C.J. Stroud, if we're being all honest. He's going to get fed maybe as high as 16 or 17 targets in that game against the Rams, who I like Nico Collins to dominate week 1. Sam Laporta may find the end zone play serviceable, as well as Devonta Smith. And then your Lions defense, it's a tougher matchup for them against the Packers. Jake Moody gets some good kicks up, and then Brad Robbins does not punt a lot for the Bills. So don't really know what that punter deal is, but some solid things working for the Zestmeisters in week 1. On the other side of things, for the Bunnies, I think they get some good love. I mean, Justin Herbert gets off to a solid start. He's got to throw the ball a little bit more to keep up with that Chiefs offense, probably. Jordan Love, I think, also will throw the ball a good amount. Both of those quarterbacks do exactly what I said when I predicted this team as number 1. They play serviceable and are consistent with their scoring. Jonathan Taylor opens up against Miami. I think he picks up right where he left off last season with a 20-plus point performance, finding the end zone maybe 2-3 times. He's going to have a great game as well. And Kyron Williams also finds the end zone, plays consistent, hovers around 20 points. Jay Jettis, I mean, he is that offense. You've got to start J.J. McCarthy out on the right note. Feed Jay Jettis. That's what they do against Chicago in Chi-Town, and they dominate 20-plus point performance for Jefferson. And then Jackson Smith-Njigba has a good performance. He's still getting used to Sam Darnold and being the number 1 option. He sees 10-plus targets, benefits, and plays serviceable with that time. George Kittle, I think he has a great game back. He'll be hovering around that tight end 1 spot with the performance. And then T. Higgins, I think he'll play serviceable, but I think Jamar Chase, obviously, will have the bigger game against a bad Browns team. Your defense, the Eagles' defense, will dominate the Cowboys. Elliott, the kicker for the Eagles, plays pretty well. And then Gillian will punt a ton against the Commanders. So, breaking this one down, I do have a 9-point spread. It's close, but I am taking the Bay City Bunnies. A little bit too much firepower despite the top score of the week for the Zestmeisters. I think they beat a lot of other teams that might be favored in their matchup, but they run into the Bunnies, who I think are going to have a monster offense. So in a 9-point spread, give me the Bay City Bunnies I am so sorry, the Brooklyn Bunnies. We are still getting used to the change to defeat the Zestmeisters. Our fifth and final matchup. It's the game of the week. It's the Rocky River Rough Riders taking on the Cancun Chameleons to get us started here in week one. An extremely, extremely exciting matchup. I think this one will be the closest all week long, and you've got to tune in to how these players are doing. We'll start with the Rocky River Rough Riders, who I think will have a great start at the quarterback position. Baker Mayfield plays well, and they make an extremely interesting switch up. They're going to go with J.J. McCarthy to roll out in week one over Jared Goff. J.J., I think, gets off to a great start, even maybe a better start than Goff, who's got to play a tough Packers team. He's playing Chicago. I think J.J. gets off to an excellent start, and he'll be right around the 20-point range. Baker Mayfield will be around the 20-point range. Your running back room, I mean, do we need to talk about it? Bijan Robinson, Mr. Consistent from 2024, guaranteed 20 points this week, week one against the Bucs. He's going to get receiving yards, rushing yards. He'll be fantastic. And then Derrick Henry, they're going to rely heavy on the run. The Ravens are against the Bills in week one. I think Derrick Henry has a monster game, finds pay dirt, maybe once, maybe twice. Depends how much Lamar Jackson wants to find pay dirt as well. Great performance, though, from the running back tandem. Then we move to your turning point player at wide receiver. It's Tyreek Hill. Yeah, Tyreek Hill. We'll see what kind of game he has. Is it the Tyreek Hill that people are saying he's hit his peak, he's on his way down, or is Tyreek taking that all to heart and turning things around? I think week one against the Colts corners don't have a chance. Tyreek is back. Monster performance, 20 plus from Tyreek in week one. And then Cortland Sutton, wide receiver 2. He's a consistency guy. He's going to get you 13 to 15 points. I think he does just that in week one against the Titans. Colston Loveland has a fine game. I think he might find the end zone, but I don't think it's going to be anything dazzling. You're still going to have question marks about that tight end one. Terry McLaurin, though, he's practicing. He plays the Giants. Big game, courtesy of Jaden Daniels. Now you're starting the Cardinals defense, which I do have to say, very, very interesting. They do play the Saints, though, so I can understand why. I think they have a stellar performance as well. I think they'll play well against a horrible offense in the Saints. Jake Bates gets up some excellent kicks and gets some good points. And the Browns kicker will also be serviceable, punting a lot against Cincinnati. On the other side, for the Cancun Chameleons, Josh Allen leads the way against the Baltimore Ravens. It's Josh Allen. It's the reigning VVP. Give me a 20-point performance from him. Guaranteed at this point is what it feels like. So he'll play really well. Drake May, I think, has a really stellar performance against the Raiders. And then I almost said Ravens. No. We've got Ravens and Raiders as the opponent for both of your quarterbacks. Devon Achane, who has been announced he will play week one, is very healthy. He'll go for 20 plus. I think he's like, guys, I was good all along. I think he takes down all the haters of the injury bug, and he plays really well. The first round pick for the Cancun Chameleons shows out in his first appearance. Your turning point player is the rookie Amarion Hampton. Now, I think Najee Harris, who has been cleared to play, I don't think will get as many touches as they would have liked him to have with healthiness and still probably a lingering eye injury. Hampton gets a bulk of the carries, probably finds the end zone, plays fine as your turning point player, but nothing to blow the roof off the house. You're still waiting for a little bit more for Hampton to officially take over, but you feel good about the week one performance. Your wide receiving room, I think Drake London picks up right where he left off with Michael Penix. Great game from him. Ladd McConkey picks off right where he left off. Excellent performance from him. Tucker Kraft, a little bit questionable. I feel like he's a sneaky tight end, but I think he has a good performance week one. I'm saying serviceable week for a tight end. And then George Pickens plays well in his Cowboys debut. I think a lot of the pressure will be on CeeDee Lamb. Pickens will feast a little bit off that down the field. Your special teamers, Seahawks defense plays average against the 49ers offense. Brandon Aubrey is Brandon Aubrey. He'll get you 10 plus this week. And Austin McNamara will do some good work punting against the New York Jets. So my prediction for our game of the week, Rough Riders and Chameleons in a 4-point spread, the closest spread of the week, I am going to go with the Cancun Chameleons. I think they barely edge it out. A little bit more consistency across the board. I think there's some monster performances from the Rough Riders that is going to turn some heads that are like, oh, wait a minute. Rough Riders might be one of the best teams in the league. They kept up with the Chameleons, who will have one of the best offensive performances of the week, I think. But I am going the Cancun Chameleons. So that wraps up this week 1 predictions. Plenty of fun matchups in the books. We've got the winners of this week. For me, prediction-wise, it's the Tucson Gila Monsters over Linden the Crow. The Bangkok Ball and Boas against the Guantanamo Bay Flying Squirrels. The Avengers over the Empire Strikes Back. The Bunnies take down the Zestmeisters. And the Chameleons take down the Rough Riders in the game of the week. So I think week 1, maybe a lot more blowout matchups. Week 2, though, I do expect a lot closer matchups. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Did I misplay some players? Do you think some players will have breakout games? Let me know who those players are. And let me know your predictions for week 1 and who you're rooting for in 2025. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week, Wednesday, for the results of week 1 and my week 2 predictions. Have a great first week of the NFL season, and we'll see you again real soon on the Nathan Sports Talks channel.